All right, so next we're going to dig into some of the norms we want to be true for our time during the board, and we'll revisit these at the start of every meeting just to ground ourselves in what we want to be true for our experience on the board and how we want to treat each other. And you might ask yourself, well, what are norms? Well, norms are just simply rules or expectations that are socially enforced. You can have norms at your bowling club, you can have norms at your workplace, you can have norms anywhere. And I think these are a really good tool to use to ground us again in what we want to be true for the experience and what we expect of each other during this time. So the first norm that we want to be mindful of throughout our process and through our time together is deferring judgment. We also want to build on the ideas of others in this experience. We want to be honest and direct, especially as we process applications for funding. It's okay to disagree, okay to have different perspectives. All of that is welcomed here. And we want everybody to stay focused on the topic, because we are here for a very specific reason, and that's to process funding applications for the Resilient Leaders Initiative through the Accountability Board. Confidentiality is key, which is a tongue twister apparently today, but confidentiality is key here as we will be reviewing very, private and sensitive information about our teams and their service populations. So that's something we want to norm around. And lastly, we want to make sure that this is a safe space. There's no bad ideas, no bad questions. So come to this space as naturally as you are, and all things are welcome and safe in this space. And if there is ever a time where anyone doesn't feel that way, please let us know, please let me know, and we can work towards ensuring that is secure for each of you. Just to share a little bit about the context of Resilient Leaders, and I'm sure you guys know this, but just as a refresher, Resilient Leaders Initiative is a 9-month program powered by Rural Opportunity Institute that collaborates with organizations to create resilient futures for rural communities. Through this program, teams will receive support to understand their own organizations and their roles in perpetuating trauma. And teams will also begin to design and pilot new policies and practice that lead to healing and reimagine what could be true about how they approach trauma work. Our program again this year looks very different. You'll see some new faces like mine, a different timeline. A lot of different things will be true for this cohort's experience, because we wanted to make sure that teams have a lot of time to do the things that they need to build their little bits. And so here you'll see the timeline in full for the program. If you look dead smack dab in the center, you'll see convening 5, which is upon us. That is our next convening. Teams just finished up convening 4 on June 8th, where they reflected on the little bits that you guys will start to review in your funding applications here soon. So again, this is our program as it stands. There's 3 phases, and we are currently in phase 2 of the program. So that's super exciting. Teams have already done quite a bit at this stage, and that we can't wait to see what else they come up with in their little bits and what they might change. Just to give you a glimpse of what teams we'll be supporting through our work on the accountability board, we have 5 teams that we're working with in the RLI program this cohort. We have Edgecombe Community College joining us this cohort. Eastern Star Missionary Baptist Church, Upper Coastal Plain of Governments is joining us. Southwest Edgecombe High School, as well as Wilson County Department of Social Services. So we have a really robust range of teams this year. They're really excited. They have really jumped head first into the work, and we have really thrown a lot their way. They've made some incredible strides, and they're just really excited to be in the program and see what comes of it for the people that they serve, right? And then below you'll see their coaches notated there. So this is a small glimpse of our teams. And just to give you a little background around to where teams are, to further that, teams have already spent time building community and making connections with our facilitators, our RLI staff, our coaches, and other teams as they work towards goals in those spaces and convenings with each other. They've also identified a priority population and conducted empathy interviews. And they've also synthesized the learnings from those interviews and designed insights. And they've taken those insights and built their little bets. And they've also gotten some feedback from their stakeholders around what the little bet feels like to them. So that's kind of where teams are now. And we have, again, a much long way to go in terms of our program timeline. So teams are going to be up to some other things too here in a couple months. Just to give you a few examples of the types of little bets that teams are up to in this moment in our current cohort. Wilson Department of Social Services saw a need for wellness and support of their actual staff at Wilson DSS. The idea of caring for the caretaker has emerged in some of the conversations and empathy interviews they've done, and some of the tasks and challenges that we've pitted against them to really think differently about their population, how to best serve them. And so they want to create wellness spaces and stations in their building and outside their building, so team members and staff have opportunities to recharge, refocus, and refuel to do this important work at the county. Eastern Star Missionary Baptist Church, they have worked hard to craft a little bit around youth engagement. They saw a need for youth to engage more in leadership roles in their church, and they've already begun to lay the foundation for feedback in this church space. They've joined some church conference meetings, engaged with the elders of the church community, and so super excited to see what comes as a result of that with youth engagement in the church. So let me skip back. Before we get into the board overview, are there any questions specifically about anything I've mentioned so far? I want to give you guys a pause to think. I know it'll be a lot of talking today, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to jump in if you have any questions. All right, I'm trying to work on my pause time. I have to get back to my teacher roots. But if there are no questions, we'll forge ahead. That's great. That means that everything's been clear so far. So I love that. And if you do have questions, feel free to utilize the chat feature, or if you want to pop in, that works too. So just to give you a brief overview of the Accountability Board, the purpose of the board is to, just convene community leaders like yourselves to give feedback to our Resilient Leaders Initiative program teams, just so they can, support teams as they become more trauma informed and make them more accountable, right? As it relates to funding. Membership of this board, community members come from a diverse background with a host and wealth of experiences and knowledge to bring to the table as we, go through this process together. Particularly, some of you have experience facilitating resilience building spaces. You have longstanding relationships within your community, your educators. And so all of those experiences and backgrounds are invaluable to membership of the board. And lastly, wanted to overview a few responsibilities with you regarding the board. So your chief means of responsibility as it relates to the board is reviewing requests for funding and materials, okay? So this board will meet specifically around any funding requests that are devised and submitted by teams regarding their little bit. So I want to make that crystal clear for everybody so we're all on the same page. We're going to use a bunch of processes to evaluate these applications, which I'll get into here in a bit, show you some of that functionality of some of the forms we're going to use. And lastly, you guys as board members will get gifts as it relates to your participation on the board. And so we'll have to get a few documents from you, including a W-9 to process your gift. And you will receive that gift after the last review meeting. I know there was some language around, some breakup of this, but there were some funding adjustments we had to make. And so board members will be gifted $1,000 within 30 days of the last review meeting. And if there are other things you need as it relates to your position on the board, we do have funds available for that. If you need materials, if you need notepads, or anything you think that would make the process easier for you as a board member, please reach out. We want to help. We're here to support. We have the money to do it. Not millions of dollars, but we can get you a pack of pens if you need it. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the board overview. Next, we're going to talk about what a story of success looks like. And luckily, we have our wonderful Mr. Corey Williams here with us, who is actually a member of our board. So he has a wonderful lens to do this work with us for this cohort, because he already knows what's to come and how to, gauge applications and can offer all of us insight, because this is all new for us, right? So gonna dig in here a little bit, and Mr. Williams, feel free to jump in as you'd like here. But wanted to share this example of Mr. Williams' program with Hope and how they, just created, multiple little bets. They had lots of things that they wanted to do for their school community and landed on, billing for Medicaid to get counseling service for some of their students. And I'm going to pause and let Mr. Williams share a little bit, if that works, Mr. Williams, about, what you guys were up to in terms of like creating your little bit, how you got there, and what this has meant for sustaining this piece of your program now, even after Resilient Leaders is over. So, and feel free to share as much or as little as you like.
You were doing a great job.
But you can do it better.
Just wanted to share, the real motivator for this little bet was really behind a previous student that we had here at the Hope program. During COVID, we had opportunity to really build a relationship with the student, and there was a situation that happened with the student where he didn't make the best decision, and I had to issue out a consequence, which was punitive. However, during that session, in conversation with the student asked the question, "Mr. Williams, you don't like me anymore?" And I had to understand that I really need some help. Being a school administrator and a former counselor is two different roles. So there were some blurred lines there for the student, not saying that I wasn't able to, coach the student through, but at that time I had to operate in a different role. So therefore, being able to have, have this opportunity with rural opportunities and just see the need of the students, because we were not like any other program or school in the district where they have access to a social worker, a school counselor, or anything like that. We didn't have that. So there was a need there, a void there that needed to be filled. So that's how we came up with the small bet of being able to get a counselor here in our facility. But the biggest thing is I didn't want it to be something that we just put a Band-Aid over it. I wanted it to be something that would be sustainable. So I knew that in the school district that we have other services like OT and PT, which are billed through Medicaid. So it's dealing with the physical health. So I understand that mental health is a part of physical health. So we just brainstormed and researched what ways that we could also apply this same concept to get our students what we need so that they can be successful in this environment. And to this day, we've partnered with people from DPI. We partner with different agencies throughout the state that has helped us provide us with coaching to help us to get to this point where we are able to meet the needs of our students.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. You positioned that so beautifully for everyone and was able to share, just the weight of which, the little bit carried throughout the students in your school. So thank you for sharing that. I had an opportunity not too long ago to visit Mr. Williams at the school, and they're really doing some great work over there. But just to give you a few more slides related to Mr. Williams' experience with Hope and how they've, kind of moved through the process from start to now, right? They developed, some intake processes and forms to like better help them systematize some of their little bit here, which you'll see they, created a parent intake form, a Hope intake form, Medicaid parent consent, which is important for, processing these types of applications and payments, and then a behavioral plan here. So these are some of the documents that came out of the little bit. If you'd like to share more here, Mr. Williams, please jump in.
Yeah, yes, and so with this, I'm glad that you provided this visual for us. The biggest thing, especially we want to remove the stigma of mental health services. So we came up with a format through our intake. I have intake meetings when students come into our program. So this was an additional part to the process. And I had a conversation with them that our main goal is to make sure that we service our students so that they can be their best self. And by having this service available to them will help them tap into that. So also, you know, when you think about the stigma that comes around mental health or talking to someone, people have, I've noticed in this area, may have taken on the mindset that something is wrong with you. It doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. All of us need someone to talk to at some point in time in our life. And it's best to get it from someone that is able to offer you sound advice to lead you in the right direction. So, and going at it and having those conversations with the students and the parents, we were able to get their permission for us to provide these services. Now, with the paperwork, with the Medicaid release form, that's how we were able to pay for the counseling here at our facility. So what we did, and you can, that's a good place to stop. We had to, in order to be reimbursed for the funds, we wanted to provide the least restrictive, I guess what you say, intervention for them, where they won't be classified as ODD or something like that. We wanted it, whatever the student was referred to us for, whether it was attendance issues or anger issues, that's what we wanted to dive in and meet that need and help provide coping skills and strategies and resilient skills to help them deal with that specific area in their life. And we've seen great results because of that. So we was able to build a process, and you know, there is a system that our district used through the EC department, which is info handler. So we use those that same platform when we enter into our notes into the system, because you have to have a doctor to sign off on each note that is being presented. So we don't have a doctor in the district to do that. So we have to use another method. So this was the method that we use. And that, like I said, there was many people that was instrumental in this process that helped us, coach us, that was willing to share their expertise so that we were able to serve the students. So when the statement is true that it takes a village, it does. It takes a village to really meet the needs of the children. And I'm glad that we had these important people willing to share information to help us sustain and help our vision to come true.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. We appreciate that. And I will share the slide deck after our time is over so you guys can get a closer look at the process map and some of the examples and more fine-tuned details, a part of some of the slides we're sharing about Mr. Williams and Hope's work. And here, just really briefly, I can overview these. These are some of the ICD-10 codes they use to process the payments for Medicaid for, you know, what's happening with the student, which is probably an integral part of the process related to Medicaid funding and billing. And so, so yeah, thank you again, Mr. Williams, for sharing some perspective. And there'll be another opportunity for you throughout the whole, you know, board membership to talk about your experience, to talk about, you know, funding, how that went, how you were, you know, approaching it a little bit, and so on and so forth as you know, apply for funds with us. So we're going to jump into a few mindsets as a board member that we want you to think about, right? So the goal is to disperse these funds available and have high rigor and standards for team, right? So we want you to keep that in mind as you're going through your applications, reading them. We really want you guys to be rigorous, but not overly critical in a way that doesn't help them attain their goal. And so wanted to be very clear on that. We encourage you to give teams feedback if you feel like that is necessary based on the applications they submit. When you review teams' funding applications, you will share with them, yes, if they got approved, and what feedback or improvements you'd like to see and why. You will rarely, if ever, decline an application. So we definitely want to take a more like supportive stance versus adversarial in a way, because I know sometimes board experiences with funding attached to it can be very different, but we want this board to be very communicative, very supportive of our teams and their learning as it relates to their little bit and how they want to execute on that. So again, please keep all that in mind as you're developing your own mindsets as a board member. And we're going to jump into now the funding process overview. Very, very simple process outlined here. So right now we're in the preparation stage. RLI participants have completed phase 1. They're headed into phase 2. We will introduce the accountability board funding process. Well, not introduce, pardon me. We will reintroduce the accountability board and funding process in convening 5, which is on July 13th. So as you guys are receiving some of this information, we will also be sharing this with teams so they can start getting applications to us. But when teams do start submitting applications, you'll see 2 options that they're able to choose. They can submit a written application or a video submission. Participants will submit this information via a Google form, which I will dig into here a bit. And then the accountability board members will independently score each application using a rubric, which I will also get into here in a moment. And then the accountability board will meet. They'll discuss the application, give any feedback they want to for the team. And then as needed, teams will respond to any feedback requests from the board. So if the board has more questions they want to ask, if you guys really want to drill down on rigor, this is the opportunity for you to do that with teams, and you can request that information in the process we've outlined, which we'll get into again in a minute. And then the last part of our overview is decision and feedback. So the board will share words of encouragement with the teams and any feedback based on their requests. And then we'll share those words of encouragement with the RLI team and the coach and any participants on the team. I'm gonna pause for another moment because I know I'm gonna give you a lot of information. Any questions? And this may look a little different from last year too. All right, we're pushing forward. If something comes up, please let it bubble. So we're going to talk a little bit, I'm sorry. Before we get into that, I want to show you guys the application and rubric. So give me a moment here to readjust. All right. I'm going to share my screen again. All right, can everybody see this form okay? Perfect, thank you for the nods. All right, so this is the form that teams will utilize to apply for their funding. Very simple Google form. It just asks a series of questions that we want to know specifically about their little bit. And these questions include things like, how they expect to, submit their application. Do they have a timeline? Do they have data that they've collected or prepared that they want to share to build context around why they selected their little bit? So there's a series of questions here that teams will answer, again, via video or written submission. And I'm not sure if I can go to the next one just to show you here. But yeah, so there's 2 more sections in this. So depending on what team select, they'll be able to go through the application based on a written submission or a video submission. There'll be a upload button for them to upload their videos to, any links and information like that will all be housed and pulled down from this form, which will help us be able to streamline all the information that they'll share with us as a result. And so now I'm going to get into our review meetings where we'll talk a little bit about the rubric. Does everybody see my screen okay? We're on review meetings. Good to go there? Perfect. All right. So during our review meetings, we will collectively discuss applications and follow up with teams for information if needed, as mentioned before, to make a final decision. Each meeting, we will review the application tracker to see where teams are in the funding process. It's just a simple Excel spreadsheet with, dates of submission, the amount requested, all of that. And obviously that document will not have any information in it because no one submitted anything yet. So we'll go over that tracker at each meeting just to see where teams are. The board will also pre-screen any submissions using the rubric I'm about to show you 2 days prior to the review meetings. I will send an email 2 days ahead of each review meeting with those applications and any other information you need to process that application. And so I'm going to take a moment to show you the rubric really quick. Can everybody see that? It should be a green form you're seeing. Perfect. All right, and see on this form is where we've connected the deadlines again. So I want to make sure everybody knows, when these things are due, when they'll be reviewed and all of that. So this is the rubric that you guys will use to grade these applications, to process these applications, okay? It'll ask you your email address, your name, the applicant's team name, and then it'll ask you a series of questions where you'll rate from strongly disagree to strongly agree based on how you feel the application presented itself. So like here in the first question, you'll see it asks, does the application provide an overview of the challenge that the team is hoping to address with their little bit? And depending on what you read and the materials they share, you will answer the question based on this scale. And so if you scroll down, you'll see a few more questions. It's very short form. And then at the end of the form, it asks you if you would agree to what the overall status of the application is and if the applicant's request is approved. So you'll say yes if it is, yes if it's going to be partially approved, and then no if you want additional feedback. And then at the very end, you can put in some comments for your feedback so we can close any communication loops on what we want to see in the next round of application. Any questions about this rubric? Because you're going to have some homework on it, so. All right.
I have a question. I was trying to get off mute there. So this is the forthcoming applications. This is not talking about the cohort and where they are now. These are the things that we're to look for in the next group of applications.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Wonderful summary, Ms. Carol. You're absolutely right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, so let's dig back in here. And so you've seen the rubric, and we'll head back over to a few more tips and points about the review meetings that I like to drill home for us. Again, I will send that rubric that you just showed, that I just previewed you 2 days prior to our review meetings, okay? The review board meetings are as follows. These meetings will be on Wednesdays since we're kind of starting on Wednesdays at the same time frame. So does 3 to 4 work for everybody still for this schedule? We'll meet once a month between now and October, which is a little longer than we initially anticipated because we want to give teams time up until the end of the program to apply.
I think that it will be fine, that 3 to 4 time frame.
Okay.
I will email you if it conflicts with anything. I don't think I'll have a class at that time, but you know,
Okay.
you have middle school timing is
Yeah.
it's usually I'm used to it. So I have had Zoom meetings in the parking lot and the bus line. So
Okay.
but I do want to make sure that I am able to commit and do it
Sure.
justice. So if there is a serious problem, I'll let you know, but I don't think it'll be a problem.
Okay, that's great, Stephen. And we'll always record these meetings. So there will always be an opportunity for you to review everything afterwards. And I also send like pretty detailed email summaries. So there'll be multiple ways for you to connect with the material if you can't make it for whatever reason, or if any of you can't make it for whatever reason. And if you find yourselves having to be absent from me, just like shoot me an email, a text. I think I have all of you guys' number now. So please feel free to communicate with me as your needs grow and expand over the next few months, and just let me know how I can support. And so before I close out this slide, just wanted to elevate one thing. If I am not seeing applications being submitted in the documents that our teams have to apply, we will not hold a review meeting. Okay, want to be very clear that we don't want to waste, anybody's time if there's no work to do, right? So because we all are doing other important work too, right? And want to have time to to get to all those things. And so we do not at ROI believe in meeting for meeting's sake. So if we do not have any applications, we will not meet, and I will send out cancellation notifications. So you can expect to see that from me. So there's nothing really to do there, but it's just an awareness that I'd like you guys to have as we move forward. Any questions about the review meetings? Anything on this slide, the rubric, the application itself that teams will be using? Perfect. We're trudging on, doing good on time. Oh, wait, was that it? What? Look at us. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so we are at our closing. What's next in closing? Reminders. Teams will submit their first round of applications by end of day, July 22nd. That is a week and a half out from their next convening. We wanted a quicker turnaround with applications this cohort for a couple of reasons. We wanted to get that information to the board so they can process it a little bit faster, to give teams enough time between each application window to add and update any feedback, and also bring in any new learnings to update their little bit and adjust in between moments. So you'll notice that every month we'll meet, right, based on the schedule I just shared, and teams will actually be submitting that information ahead of the dates that we have review meetings. So we'll have everything in a timely fashion. Our first review meeting will be July 27th, which is a while from now, at 2:30. That was the original time I selected, but as mentioned, we can stick with this 3 p.m. time. And I will send you guys calendar holds for all these times. So that, again, no action items to take on your end related to scheduling. I will support with scheduling on all of these meetings. And if you, for whatever reason, have any questions about the scheduling, just reach out to me. If you say, hey, you said 4 days, I only got 3, let me know. And I can get you all that information. Just want to make sure people have everything that they need. And so lastly, we have a few action items now that we're going to head into. And I will send all of this stuff in email. I will follow up with you all. So there's no need to like super absorb all this now, but again, just some awareness building around, the experience on the board as a whole. I would love for you guys to spend a few minutes reviewing the rubric ahead of our next meeting. So you have 6 weeks-ish, 4 or 5, 6 weeks-ish till the next time we meet, to take a look at the rubric. If you have any questions, if you think the rubric could be different in some way, don't want to change it too much, because we'll be sharing it with team members really soon. But if you do have any feedback on the rubric, feel free to elevate that with me by the end of the week so I can make those edits before we share it with share any other information with our teams about this process. And lastly, we would love for you guys to go ahead and complete those W-9s, and so we can get those processed. So when it's time to give you guys your gifts for your board participation, there is no lag time, no red tape, no bureaucracy to have to deal with, because we already have everything we need in place. And I will send those to you in this email, and you will definitely have an opportunity to complete those between now and Monday, end of day if possible. No problem if you need a little bit more time to complete it, that's fine. Just let me know what you need and when I can anticipate getting it, and that works for me. And then just one more thing about the board. Remember, members will receive $1,000 gift for their participation within the last 30 days of the last review meeting. Okay, so that'll come a little later. Any questions about the reminders or action items? All right, well, I love giving away stuff. I love gifts. I love free stuff, and I hope y'all do too. And now, before we close out, we're gonna have a little raffle, if that works. Does that work for everybody? Can I get an aye, Captain? All right. And thumbs up works too. I was feeling my SpongeBob moments just now. All right, so I have a wheel of names that I have added everybody's names here in the wheel that is joining us for our call. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see, so to make it fair. All right, and here we go. Drum roll, please. Ooh, up. Hooray, Stephen, you want a gift. I will definitely be sending you a gift.
You know, I never win anything. I appreciate it.
Well,
I
you
always
know what?
appreciate it. You know.
Everybody is a winner here
Yes,
on the
yes.
accountability board. So
Love
thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Miss Kara and Corey, both for being here.
Thank you.
And I will make sure you guys have you guys have all the things that you need in the follow-up email for this. So you can have the materials, the rubric, and all the things that you need. I will share some dates with you. And so if you guys have any questions after you review some of the materials and sit with them, please let me know. And I will definitely get your gift over to you, Stephen. Before we convene, love to open up the floor for any questions, anything anybody really excited about that you've heard. I'm curious to hear any reactions you might have, so feel free to share.
Well, I just want to say I'm just really grateful for the opportunity just to work with Ms. Carroll and Mr. Sutton, just for us to be a part of this project together. So I'm just excited about the great work that we're gonna be doing through RLI this convene, and I just believe great things are going to happen in the community that we serve. So I'm excited about it.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams, for sharing it. I'm super excited about the board too. And this is one of my first time managing a board in this way. So this is a new learning for me. And if there's any way this process or this experience can be better for you guys, I'm super open to feedback and love collaboration. So please let me know any thoughts you might have. And if no one else has anything else for the greater good, we will convene and you guys will get 10 minutes of your time back for today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Good blessings, y'all. Thank you so much.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.